A few months ago, right after we won the big championship game, something happened that I'll probably never forget. My name is Damien, and it was my first year at a new university. I was on the football team, but I wasn't one of the top players yet. I was still trying to fit in, you know. I'm kind of a big guy, which is good for football, but I get pretty nervous in new places. That night, we all went to this popular bar near campus to celebrate our win. The place was packed with students, loud music, and banners of our team colors everywhere. Everyone was having a great time, cheering and shouting, but I felt a bit on edge, trying to keep to myself and take it all in. Little did I know, the night was about to turn into something way wilder than my worst fears. As I leaned against the bar, sipping my soda, I couldn't help but notice Tyler staring at me. Tyler was one of the star players on our team, and everyone knew he had a quick temper. But tonight, his eyes were locked on me with such intensity that it made my stomach churn. I tried to figure out why, and then I saw her, Jess, Tyler's ex-girlfriend. She was laughing at something I had said a few minutes earlier. Suddenly, Tyler stormed over. The music was booming, and people were dancing, but it felt like everything went quiet around me. "What do you think you're doing talking to Jess like that?" Tyler growled at me. His face was red, and his hands were balled into fists. People started to notice, and a small crowd began to form around us. "Hey man, it's nothing like that," I tried to explain, but Tyler wasn't listening. He stepped closer, and some of our teammates hurried over trying to calm him down, but Tyler just shoved them away, yelling, "Stay out of this!" Just then, I overheard something that made me realize I should take this situation seriously and tread carefully. A couple of teammates were whispering nearby, "Tyler's been way off lately. Worse than ever. You think it's the steroids?" The other nodded. "Definitely. He's been using them like crazy." Hearing that, I knew this wasn't just any ordinary jealous rage. Tyler was unpredictable and possibly dangerous. I glanced around, hoping for an easy way out, but Tyler's glare kept me frozen in place. The festive noise of the bar seemed to fade into the background as I braced myself for what might come next. Things escalated faster than I could have imagined. One of our teammates, Mark, stepped in, trying to put some sense into Tyler, telling him to cool off. But Tyler wasn't himself. With a wild look in his eyes, he swung hard, hitting Mark right in the face. Mark fell to the ground, and the whole bar gasped. That moment, it became clear that Tyler was out of control, and it was dangerous to be near him. The bar erupted into chaos. Tyler, fueled by his rage, started swinging at anyone close enough. People screamed and scrambled to get out of the way. Glasses shattered, and chairs were knocked over as the celebration turned into a nightmare. I tried to help a few others to get to safety, dodging punches and flying debris, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. Seeing the terror in everyone's eyes and knowing it could get worse, I did something that might have been crazy. I shouted over the noise, "Tyler, let's take this outside." Surprisingly, he paused, then nodded, storming out the back door. I followed, hoping maybe I could calm him down or at least keep him from hurting anyone else. Outside, the cool night air did nothing to chill Tyler's fury. As soon as we were out of the bar, he turned on me. I tried to defend myself, but Tyler was too strong and too angry. His punches were fast and hard, knocking the wind out of me. I took a beating, feeling each blow as I desperately hoped for it to end. Just when I thought I couldn't take much more, the bouncers from the bar came rushing out. Someone had sprinted out the front to get them, and they arrived just in time, pulling Tyler off me and pinning him to the ground. Their strong arms and quick action kept him down, holding him until the police could take over. I could hear sirens in the distance. Some of the students must have called the cops when the fight started inside. I just needed to hold on a little longer. Finally, I saw the flashing lights approach, and relief washed over me. The police arrived, and as they tackled Tyler to the ground, I collapsed, exhausted and bruised, but thankful it was over. My teammates rushed over to help me up, their faces filled with worry and relief. The nightmare was finally over, thanks to the quick action of those who dared to step in. As the sirens faded away and the police took Tyler away, the emergency services arrived quickly to take care of us. I sat there on the cold ground, my back against the bar's wall, as a paramedic bandaged a cut above my eye. It stung, but not as much as my arm, which turned out to be broken. My ribs throbbed each time I breathed. Despite the pain, I felt a huge relief, knowing the chaos was over. The bar was shut down for the night and later closed for a deeper investigation. The university didn't waste any time either. Tyler was suspended from the football team and had to face both legal and university disciplinary actions. Sitting there, watching the bar's lights turn off and the last of my teammates leave, I had a lot of time to think about everything that happened. It was clear how dangerous unchecked aggression could be, especially when mixed with something like steroids. I thought about how easily things could have turned even worse, and how important it is to handle our emotions and actions responsibly. As I healed over the next few weeks, I made a decision. I wanted to help prevent this kind of thing from happening again, not just at our school, but anywhere. I started working with the athletic department to set up programs focusing on mental health and substance abuse. We needed to educate everyone about the risks and provide support for those who might be struggling. This whole experience taught me a lot about integrity and self-control. I realized that being strong isn't just about physical power, but also about making choices that keep you and others safe. I'm still passionate about sports, but now I know there's more I can do off the field to help my teammates and friends. A few months ago, I was alone in the university library at midnight, and it was a night I'll never forget. My name is Sarah, and I'm a graduate student in history. I like to study parts of history that most people forget about, which is why I was in the library so late. That night, I was doing research for my thesis on the history of our college. The library is really big and has lots of shelves full of books. It's usually a bit dark, and that night it was only lit by some small lights that didn't reach the dark corners. I had special permission to be there after hours, which felt great because I could access all the records and files I needed. But as the night went on, the quiet and big, shadowy library started to make me feel nervous. I didn't know it then, but my interest in the past was about to lead me into a very scary situation. As I flipped through the old files and newspaper clippings, I came across something that made me stop cold. There were reports of students who had disappeared decades ago, all from right here on campus. The most chilling part was that each of them was last seen near this very library. My hands felt a bit shaky as I read the details. It was unsettling to think about such mysteries in the quiet of the night. As I continued to read, I started hearing odd noises. First, it was faint footsteps, like someone trying to move silently through the stacks. Then, a book thudded to the floor in the next aisle over. I peeked around the corner, but there was no one there. I told myself I was just tired and hearing things, but a small voice in my head whispered that something wasn't right. Deciding it was best to pack up and leave, I began to gather the files I needed to take home. That's when I saw it, a shadowy figure in the corner of my eye. It was watching me from a dark corner of the library. Every time I tried to look directly at it, it seemed to vanish. My heart started to race, and a cold sweat broke out across my forehead. I knew I couldn't stay here any longer. Grabbing my things, I hurried to leave, feeling the weight of the figure's gaze on my back as I moved as quickly as I could toward the exit. I quickly shoved the files into my bag, my hands trembling as I felt the figure drawing nearer. With every second, my fear grew, and I knew I had to get out of there fast. Using my knowledge of the library's layout, I darted down less traveled corridors, hoping to confuse whoever was following me. As I neared the exit, the quiet was shattered by the sound of rapid footsteps echoing behind me. I glanced back and saw a shadow darting between the bookshelves. My heart pounded in my chest as I pushed my legs to move faster, bursting through the library doors into the cool night air. Outside, I didn't stop. I ran toward the campus's underground walkway, thinking it might be a shortcut to safety. But the footsteps followed, persistent and quickening. As I entered the dimly lit tunnel, my worst fears were realized. The stalker had followed me outside and into the walkway. Suddenly, he was right behind me. I could almost feel his breath on my neck. In a moment of sheer panic, I tried to sprint, but he grabbed my arm, spinning me around to face him. My heart raced as I struggled against his grip. Just as I felt I couldn't get away, loud voices and laughter echoed through the tunnel. A group of drunk students stumbled into the walkway, playing some loud game. Startled by the noise and the sudden appearance of others, the stalker let go of me and slipped into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as he had appeared. Breathing heavily, I leaned against the tunnel wall, my knees weak with relief. The students, oblivious to how they had just saved me, continued their noisy banter, heading toward the party. I knew I had to get out of there and find safety. The group of students noticed how scared I was as I stumbled out of the dark tunnel. They quickly came over to help me, asking if I was okay and what had happened. I managed to explain through shaky breaths that someone had chased me. One of them pulled out a phone and dialed campus security right away, while another kept asking if I needed water or to sit down. It didn't take long for campus security to arrive, and the local police followed soon after. I gave them a full statement about what had happened, describing the stalker as best as I could in the blur of fear. I also handed over the old files I had found in the library. The officers were particularly interested in these documents, saying they might be crucial in understanding the historical disappearances and possibly identifying who had followed me. In the days that followed, the library took immediate action to increase its security during the night. More lights were installed, and security cameras were added to ensure that everyone felt safe while studying or researching. The investigation led by the police eventually identified the stalker as a local resident who had become obsessed with the old cases of disappearances. He believed he was part of a historical pattern and was trying to reenact the mysteries. Reflecting on that night, I realized how my love for digging into the past had almost put me into a chapter of history marked by fear and danger. While I remained passionate about uncovering hidden stories, I learned the importance of being more cautious and aware of my surroundings, especially when alone. The experience left me with a deep respect for the unpredictability of the past and its power to affect the present. It reinforced my desire to uncover and share these stories, but now with a commitment to do so more safely, always mindful of the shadows that history can cast. A few months ago, something happened that I'll probably never forget. My name is Jake, and I was a senior in college, studying business. I've always been pretty ambitious, always on the lookout for any chance to make sure I have a good future. But being in college isn't cheap, and money was always tight. I went to this big old university known for being really competitive. It was the kind of place where everyone tried to outdo each other all the time. Toward the end of my final year, I got this weird email. It was an invitation to an exclusive final exam, held in the old engineering building that almost nobody used anymore. That building was creepy, big, quiet, and kind of falling apart. The email said that if I passed this exam, I'd be set for life with a guaranteed successful career. It sounded too good to be true, but I was desperate and curious. Little did I know, that decision would lead me into one of the scariest nights of my life. When I first got the email about the final exam, I thought maybe it was a joke or a mistake. But then I talked to some other students who got the same message. We were all curious and a bit excited. Maybe this was our big break. We met up outside the old engineering building on the night of the exam. It was dark, and the whole place looked even more run down at night, which made us all a bit nervous. Before we could even see the first question, they made us sign a bunch of papers. They were non-disclosure agreements and waivers, full of legal words that talked about potential risks and moral challenges. Signing those papers felt wrong, but the promise of a guaranteed future pushed us to go ahead. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. Then came the first task. We were led into a dimly lit room filled with computers. They told us we needed to decrypt data from a database. It sounded straightforward until I started seeing the information on the screen. Names, addresses, personal details. It didn't take long to realize the data was about our own families. My heart dropped. What kind of exam was this? Using our family's private information felt way over the line. I looked around and saw the same realization dawning on other students' faces. We were all starting to question just what we'd gotten ourselves into. The next task really ramped up the fear. They separated us into different rooms, each one locked from the outside. Alone, I faced a computer flashing complex problems with a countdown timer ticking down. The silence of the room was broken by distant screams echoing through the walls. My heart raced. This was getting too real, too fast. The third task was even worse. I was led into a maze of rooms, each filled with different hazards, sharp objects dangling from the ceiling, floors that felt unstable, and chemicals that smelled dangerous. As I tried to navigate through, I scraped my arm on something sharp, and the cut stung sharply. It was clear, failing these tasks could mean serious injuries, or worse. But nothing prepared me for the fourth task. On a screen, I saw one of my classmates, trapped in a water-filling tank, panic clear on their face. The voice over the speaker chilled me to the bone. You can save them and lose points, or move on to secure your future. I stood frozen, the decision torturing me. How could I choose my success over someone's life? With a heavy heart, I hit the button to save them, hearing the lock click open in their room through the speaker. The final task brought me face to face with the person behind this nightmare, a professor who'd been fired for unethical experiments. He smiled coldly, explaining how this was all his study on desperation and morality under pressure. Standing there, bruised and shaken, I felt disgust and anger boiling inside me. This wasn't just a test of skills, it was a twisted game with our lives and consciences. After hearing the professor's twisted reasons, I knew we couldn't play his game any longer. Looking around, I saw the same determination in the eyes of my classmates. This was wrong, and it had to stop. We refused to complete the last task. Instead, we looked for any way to get out of that creepy building. Amidst the chaos, one of my friends remembered that the maintenance crew often left a master key in the utility room for emergencies. We quickly found the key and used it to unlock the main doors, bursting out into the cool night air. Just as we got out, the university's night security patrol was passing by. They saw us, the look of panic and urgency clear on our faces, and immediately sensed something was wrong. The security team sprang into action. They called for more help, and soon, several members of the university staff arrived. They listened to our story with growing horror and disbelief. Thanks to the quick thinking and bravery of my classmates and the timely intervention of the campus security, we escaped that nightmare. The university staff took over, promising to handle the situation and ensure that no one else would go through such an ordeal again. I felt a rush of gratitude, relieved that we had found our own way out and had been helped just in time by the very people who were supposed to protect us on campus. After everything calmed down, the university took action right away. They made a public statement denouncing the rogue professor's actions and offered counseling and support to all of us who were affected. They also sealed off the old engineering building where it all happened and started big discussions about how to better oversee what happens in their programs. Sitting in my dorm room later, I had a lot of time to think about what had happened. I realized how close I had come to giving up my values just for the chance of guaranteed success. It was a wake-up call about the dangers of wanting something so badly that you might do the wrong thing to get it. I learned a huge lesson about the importance of sticking to what's right, even when you're under pressure and feeling desperate. Despite the scary things that happened, I came out of it feeling stronger. I knew I never wanted to compromise my integrity again. Moving forward, I was more committed than ever to work hard and achieve my goals the right way, valuing honesty and hard work over any quick path to success. The whole experience taught me that the real test wasn't in that building, it's in how you choose to live your life every day.